right, everyone, welcome to the St. Ben's and St. John's webinar with our education department. My name's Anne. I work with the admission and financial aid offices, and I will be your guide. We are going to be hosted here by a couple of people from the education department, and I will let them introduce themselves in just a moment. As a quick reminder, use the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen to ask questions, and we will either answer them live or type a response to you if it's a bit more specific. And keep an eye on the chat section as well. I will use that to post some links or information that goes along with the questions that you ask. So let's start with introductions.
Hi, my name is Mary Jo Layton, and I'm the Director of Field Experiences, Partnerships, and Advising for the Education Department. This is my 4th year at St. John's and St. Ben's, but my 30th year on campus. I was up at the prep school for 26 years, so I've been on campus for quite a while. So I will work with you if you decide to come to St. John's, St. Ben's as a first year, planning a 4-year plan, helping you make any decisions about study abroad. I'll find field experience placements for you when you need to go out into a classroom. So any kind of transitional needs you have when you come to the college. So.
And I'm Anna Watt. I'm an education ambassador through the department. I'm a senior elementary education major, and I also have a communication arts endorsement, which is just middle school English. And basically what my job is to help freshmen, like when they come, if you decide to come here, you would get paired with a mentor to help you through classes, to help you through all education needs, to help you through like anything that comes up in just like the first year of college too. So.
Perfect. Those are great introductions. We don't have any specific questions yet. I'll be watching for those. So why don't we start with just a quick overview, Mary Jo, if you could talk a little bit about kind of how students get started with education and the best way to begin.
So I'll first touch on elementary ed, since that's the largest cohort we have of students, but I'll touch a little bit on secondary as well. So if there's any secondary students in the audience, they'll know what they're doing too. But so if for all education majors, you start out with an Ed 111 class. It's an introduction to teaching in a diverse world, and it'll be your first taste of education. And one of the experiences that you'll have is 35 hours in a classroom. Usually you go back to your hometown, meet up with an old elementary teacher. If you don't have any connections, I can certainly help you find one, and you observe them as a teacher. Make some mental notes in your head, do some reflections as part of that class, and help out in any way you can. As the week goes on, you might do more, but in the beginning, you're probably just observing, seeing what they're doing. Some of you have probably done that in high school, but this will be just a little bit more official and will count on your college record. You need to do so many hours to get your license in Minnesota. And then the first year, you'll be doing some integration curriculum courses. So if you've visited any colleges yet, or if you've been to St. John's or St. Ben's, a lot of colleges have what they call core curriculum. We call it integrations, because we want to people to understand that you don't just live in the education world, but there's social world classes, there's human experience classes, there's science classes, there's math classes, and we want you to think of integrating all those into your life so you can connect with other people at a different level. It's quite interesting. I think it's grown on me. It's the 3rd year we've had it, and I'm getting to really get a grip on it and understand that the outcomes of when students get through this curriculum are going to be great. So you would just take some of those core classes, integrations classes, a foundational English course, maybe a way of thinking. There's 5 ways of thinking that you are required to take. And I would help you kind of decide which ones are beneficial for you to take based on your interests and based on what goes with education. And then your 2nd year, you're into some heavy duty education courses. So if after the 1st year, you kind of decide, oh, I'm not sure I want to do education, I would avoid putting you in this, what we call the sophomore block. I'd wait until the spring, so you have a little bit more time. But sophomore block is when you're in 6 education courses. You get to go out in the field again for 40 or 50 hours. You observe a teacher. It's when you teach your first lesson. It's usually an art lesson. You read a book and then do an art lesson with it. The students Anna can talk about that a little bit more when she talks, but the students, I think, love that semester. It's intense, but they really get a feel for what education is going to be like. They're in a classroom for quite a few hours and kind of have some responsibility more than just shadowing and observing the teacher. And then again in the spring or the fall of that year, whichever year you don't take that block of classes, you'll take some more integration requirements, maybe a theology class that's required, maybe a foreign language. If you haven't had any foreign language in high school, we require 3 semesters. Or if for some reason you're not, you don't take a foreign language, there's substitution courses you can take. And then your junior year, a lot of students study abroad their junior year. We work that into your plan if you want to. You can major in education and study abroad. Most majors, there's some that are really tight. So if you don't plan from the beginning, it might be hard, but there's summer options and there's other opportunities to study abroad, May options if you can't do a whole semester. And then when you're junior and senior year, you're into, again, some heavy duty education courses, how to teach math, how to teach science, how to teach language arts, and how to teach social studies at the elementary level. And then a couple more integrations requirements and a human relations course. And then the spring of your junior year or senior year is when you do your student teaching for 16 weeks. So our students get out into the field. The state requires you do 100 hours of observing and teaching, practicing. Our students do, I'd say it's close to 150. A lot of students just volunteer in classrooms. They don't really count those hours, but it can add to your resume building of, being out in the schools. We have 2 schools right in town that are really close. The prep school is right on campus, so that's the 3rd school. So lots of opportunity to be in classrooms. So a little bit about the secondary. They major in whatever they want to teach in grades 5 through 12, or if it's science, sometimes it's just 9 through 12, but communication, language arts, social studies, math, science. So you would pick a major, and then your minor would be secondary education, and you would take, again, the intro class and some field experience classes. It's probably about 30 or 35 credits of a minor to complement that major. And then you'd be licensed to teach in Minnesota in grades 5 through 12 in whichever discipline you decided you're passionate about. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what a schedule might look like. And Anna, you can chime in and talk maybe a little bit about your experience, and if I missed something, unless Anne, if you had something else to add.
No, I was going to ask Anna to tell us a little bit about her world in the education department.
Yeah, so as Mary Jo said, so I took the block because I'm Ed. I took that my sophomore year. It looked a little different for me because it was during COVID, so everything looked a little different. But overall, like just my experience in the Ed over the 4 years, like you really do get time in classrooms, and you get time to like test in classrooms, like not giving tests. We don't do that. We're against that. But time to like really try and do like lesson plans and like really working with kids, building relationships. Like they set it up so you're not just in a classroom randomly your junior year. Like throughout your 4 years, you're seeing students, you're seeing different classrooms, you're seeing different schools, which is really beneficial. And even during COVID, that was emphasized. And I think that is something that at CSB+SJU is just so different, because I have friends that go to St. Thomas and go to other schools within Minnesota, and they're like, well, I didn't see a classroom until like junior year, and I didn't teach a lesson until right before student teaching. And I can say as a senior that in the last 3 years, I've taught probably over 20 lessons to different classes on just like quick lessons that I just had to impromptu think of. And I've gotten so much better at it because we do it so much. So I think from like the 4-year thing, what Mary Jo just talked about, like the biggest thing I think for me as an education major was I wanted to be in a classroom and I wanted to see students, and you for sure get that in this program. So.
That's a great way to explain how you get started and what some of those things are. I am curious to know what your favorite class, you can even pick 2 if you want, and it doesn't have to be education, but share some of your favorite academic classes.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to pick one education and one non-education, because for me, I came in undecided, so I wasn't sure on education. And when I came in, my very first education class I took was Education 111. That's the one Mary Jo talked about. It's the Teaching in a Diverse World. And that, even after 4 years, I think was one of my favorite classes because it was the first time where I was like, oh, I want to do this. Like, I want to teach for the rest of my life. And I was so, like, it just, like, my professor opened my eyes to it, like the class, like seeing other people who loved education and people who were like, actually, maybe I don't want to be a teacher. It was just such an eye-opening experience. Like, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. You get a lot of experience in like hearing about other classrooms and like hearing about schools that aren't here and like learning about the history of teaching. So like everything from, you know, I can't think of actually any examples right now, but that's because my brain's fried. But just like all of like the history and teaching and like what it looks like and like all the laws that have gone into it. And so like more of those like in-depth pieces of not just like, yeah, I like kids, but like what is education? Like what does that look like? So that would have to be one of my favorites. And then one of my other favorites was just a comm class that I had to take for a requirement. I didn't think I would love it. I was like, I just have to take this to take it. And it ended up being one of my favorite classes and why I got my communications arts endorsement, because the professor was just so like, I said I was an education major and she specifically was like, okay, well, I think we should do this and this and this because that'll help you in your future. So she made the course so individualized to me, which I didn't think I would be getting in a college requirement class, that I was just like I was honest. I was like, I'm just here because I have to be here. And she was like, okay, well, let's make it work for you. So I think that would have to be one of my classes. It was a intro to media writing, like something super like not my major at all, not in my lane or I thought so. And that was just last year. So yeah.
And could you talk a little bit about what the endorsement means?
Yes. So my endorsement is communication arts endorsement. And there's also a science and a math, and I might be missing one, but
Foreign language.
Foreign language. There we go. But the endorsements are just 5 through 8. And so it's like middle school. So like when you think about middle school English, that's what my endorsement is basically, or like middle school science. That's what the 5 through 8 like science endorsement would look like. And it honestly, I think I had to take like 5 or 6 classes to add it on. And it's like, for me, like I walked into a middle school classroom and I absolutely loved it. And I was like, how do I add this on? Like I like question if I want to do secondary, but I was like, how do I find a nice middle? And it's just been super cool to be able to add that on and also add on, like I got to add more comm classes, which obviously excited me. But yeah, very flexible.
So when you get that endorsement, you get a K through 6 license and you get a 5 through 8 license. So you would be licensed K through 8, but 5 through 8 in that specific subject. So just wanted to explain that. Good job, Anna.
I love when a required class turns into one of your favorites and you discover that you have another passion that you didn't even know existed. And it just builds the excitement for what you're doing. And if you do end up teaching in that area, your students will notice that kind of excitement. Let's move to Mary Jo. If you could talk a little bit, one of the attendees actually asked a question about pre-med, which is very different from education. So maybe you could talk just a little bit sometimes about making that decision if you want to do education and how it may or may not work with some other programs.
So we have had several students that have either come from pre-med or they started in our program and then wanted to go to nursing. So we work back and forth with them. So in the beginning, you can definitely on your information sheet say you're interested in education and pre-med, and the admission or the advising office, when they make your fall plan, they'll put you in some of those hardcore science classes, because that's the first thing that pre-med students have to take: chemistry, biology, and also introduction to education. And then after that first semester, even into the second semester, you could be doing both still. There's a math class you need to take for education that I like you to take your first year, but then you'd probably just take another sequence in the science field. So you probably have that first year to really play in both worlds. And then after that first year is when you'd have to decide if you wanted to, for pre-med, I think there's only about 10 or 12 classes that you have to take. So technically, if you did not study abroad and you came in with some college credits or your language, you could potentially use all your electives for most of those pre-med classes. So you could play that game for sure a couple years before you really had to say, okay, I got to give up on the pre-med, or I got to give up on the education major. But pre-med isn't a major. I had a niece that went to St. John's, St. Ben's, and she majored in psychology and got a minor in I think biology, but only because she really liked it and just kept going in biology with her electives. So I think it's possible to get quite a few of those pre-med requirements done. And a lot of students, if they can't get them done on campus, they'd maybe take them over the summer or after they graduate if they decide they really do want to go to med school. So it's a option to kind of keep in both worlds for probably a good, I wouldn't want to put you in that block, that semester, your sophomore year, if you're not going to go into education. So if you were thinking of pre-med, I'd push that off until spring of your sophomore year. So you'd have 3 semesters to kind of play around a little bit with the requirements.
That is actually one of the benefits of the way scheduling works at St. John's and St. Ben's, is that our classes are small enough, faculty members know their students, and so it isn't as much of a battle to get into the classes that you need. And that does allow for a little bit more of that exploration and taking the time to decide what you really are most interested in. Those 2 areas in particular are so varied that I think it would be unusual for a student to get all the way through and not have made the decision. But also the trend nationwide is that some of our doctors are going into that field a little bit later after they've already worked and gained some experience in another area. So there's really no reason you have to make all of those decisions while you're in college. I want to go back to Anna because I think she's going to have some other fun stuff to tell us about. While we wait for our attendees to think of some more questions, why don't you talk about some of the things that you enjoy most outside of your classes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I work in the education department, and I know you wouldn't expect me to be like, my job is something I enjoy so much, but it actually is something I enjoy. Like, I have never been like, oh, I have to go to work today. Like, I'm excited to go to work. I'm excited to see my mentees. Like, I tell my mentees this, and I don't think they believe me either, but I get so excited when I get emails from mentees because I'm like, oh, I can help someone, like, it's just like a great environment. I love my other ambassadors. And I promise, like, I'm not being paid to say this. I am not being told to say this. Like, I really do love my job. And I think anyone that works with me or knows me, like, knows that. I also am involved in other things on campus. I'm involved in Education Club, which is a super cool opportunity that we have that like it's for education majors, but it's just like we do just fun stuff. Like we had gym game night, we have a pumpkin painting thing coming up. Like it's just fun activities for like other education majors to like hang out and meet each other. I think another thing I really found on this campus to be kind of unique to where we are too is I just love the outdoors, and I love anything that I can do like on these both campuses that has to do with outdoors. Like in the winter, we have skating. They kind of like make this like makeshift like rink thing. I don't really know how to explain it, but you can go skating, and like we have with Lake Sag, there's just so much you can do. Like now it's kind of cold, but pretty much almost every day I got off work, I would go to Lake Sag and just like hop in the lake, or we would go kayaking or canoeing, or just like there's so many opportunities, whether it's hammocking, walking, like there's no limit on the outdoors. And if you're like, I hate the outdoors, I also sometimes am against the outdoors when it's too buggy or it's like absolutely too cold. Like I'm just not here for it. And I would have to say, like during those times, there's just always an event. Like there's always an event. There's always something to go to. Like I tell my mentees this too. Like I go to an obscene amount of events. Like I think some club people are probably annoyed of my face. Like they're like, man, she's just at everything. And it's just because there's so many things to be at. Like truly there's no night on this campus that there's not something going on. And it's usually something pretty cool that like once I left college, I would have to pay to go see or like to go do. So I just like try and take it all in. And like I feel like I could speak for a lot of my friends and a lot of my peers in the education department. Like we are really just like you might as well get it in now, like there's just always something to do, something to see, like something cool happening, like something someone cares about. So I guess that would be like what I don't even know if I answered the question there, but I think I did. I think I did.
You did a great job.
You did.
Sounds like you're
And-
involved and really soaking it all in, and I love that. So we did have a question about study abroad, and the specific question was where you could go. Now, I wouldn't necessarily expect you to be able to rattle all those off, Mary Jo or Anna, but where are some of the places your students have chosen to do study abroad?
So there are several study abroad options. I think St. John St. Ben's has one of the most selections of a lot of colleges, but our students, oftentimes they'll go to Spain, London. We have some that are specific to education that are just in the summer. One was to the UK this past summer, and one is to Finland next summer. They're just short 10, 14 days. We've had students go to South Africa, Greece and Rome, or Greece or Rome. We had a student go. Ireland is another one. I have a student that's going to Japan next fall. We've had students go to Mexico and Chile. Those are two, and Mexico's a new one. Chile's established one. So I haven't had anybody go to Australia, but that is another opportunity to go to Australia. Trying to think if I've got them all. Is there one to China? There's probably a study abroad to China. It's on our website under study abroad. I always, whenever students come in to meet with me, I always pull it up so they know what the options are for semester programs and if they just want a shorter one, a summer program. So lots of opportunities.
There's also a way to look at it in that you shouldn't limit where you might go on your study abroad based on your major. Because with a little bit of planning, and we typically advise students to start planning for study abroad already during their first year if they're considering it. You don't have to make a final decision, you don't have to make a final plan, but when you pencil out your 4-year plan, if you're planning to study abroad during your junior year, you can save some of those integration requirement courses to take when you're there and take your education courses when you're on our campus, and we know exactly what you'll get. So let's see here if we have another question. Oh, no, that one's done. We're just waiting for some more questions to come in. And in the meantime, I want to put Anna on the spot again. And I want to ask you your favorite place on campus, maybe one at St. Ben's and one at St. John's, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to limit yourself.
Oh, another really good question. My favorite spot at St. John's, I think you can probably take this already, but I really love the outdoors. And my favorite spot at St. John's is if you walk, there's this path, there's a chapel walk, which is a long walk around Lake Sag to the chapel. But if you go like just leading onto that path, there's a spot on the lake that you can see the chapel from, like just these like trees that I hammock there like all the time. And that's like actually like my safe space at St. John's because there's nobody there. People might walk by, but it's always quiet. It's so serene. I study there because real big perk of, I don't know if it's all schools, it might be, but like I have Wi-Fi in the middle of the woods, which is really nice. Like I can do like my like online homework in a hammock in the woods. So that's probably my favorite spot at St. John's. And at St. Ben's, my favorite spot would have to be, we have a coffee shop. We have the Perk at St. John's. There's one at St. Ben's. I don't know. At St. Ben's, we have the Perk. At St. John's, we have the Shoe. But at St. Ben's, the Perk is like my favorite space just because it's so calm. It's like coffee shop vibes at a college. Like it's just got like the workers are great. I'm obsessed with coffee, so that's probably part of it. But also it's a great spot to study and like still have people interaction. Like if I'm sitting there, there's no way I'm not going to see someone I know or someone that knows me or something like that. So like still having like, you know, not feeling like I'm just in my dorm room, like studying and just like closed off, like having a space that's quiet and calm and like has light music. It's definitely my favorite spot. I think it has the best vibes and maybe that's just me, but it's just a really nice spot on campus.
Mary Jo, you talked a little bit about getting our students out into the schools and out into the community. Could you talk a little bit about how you help students with that, how you help them set that up and plan for it?
So every semester there's 10 or 12 classes that professors contact me and say, I have 20 students in my class and they all need to go out for 20 hours and I need this many placements. They can go in pairs. So I first start by working with the professors to get how many placements they need. Then I work with all my contacts in the area, probably a 30-mile radius. Generally, I try to stick to St. Cloud as much as possible, but we do go up to Avon and Albany, which is, maybe 15 minutes away. And then I work with the teachers that have volunteered in the past and the principals that I know. And then once I get them set up, the professors then take over again. I send them a list and they match up the students with whoever can ride together and that have the same times. And then if there's concerns or anything, usually the professor takes care of it, but sometimes the student will come and, talk with me about either the time doesn't work or, whatever, and then we'll work it out so they can make it. I had a student in today she's in 2 pedagogy classes right now. So she has to do about 40 or 50 hours. And so we have to kind of be creative with when she's going to get out. So, yeah, it's kind of a group thing. I do it class by class and school by school. I try, COVID was challenging because some schools won't let us in. So a lot of our students had to Zoom in. Now that they're back, it's getting a little bit more, a little easier for me to make some connections with teachers that are willing to have students in. They love it. They love our students. I haven't in my 4 years heard anything like, okay, I'm never going to take a College of St. Benedict St. John student again. They really do like our students because they're prepared. Like I said, usually by the time they do that first lesson, they've been out in the field already 35 to 50 hours observing and maybe doing a little bit of helping. But then, like Anna said, she's probably a little bit of an overachiever. So she's maybe taught more lessons than most students. But for every class, you have to teach, so many lessons to complete the course. So you do get a lot of opportunity to teach a lesson in these field experiences. So.
Yeah, I think going off of Mary Jo, I definitely am an overachiever in that. But the point in that is that you can, if you're I want to teach more lessons, I want more opportunity to do that, there is opportunity, but also you're never forced. It's never you usually only have to do 1 per class, but you're always welcome to do more, which I think is a really cool opportunity because, you get to test your comfort on that.
Anna, without naming names or places, what has been maybe your most memorable experience from being out in a school? It can be good or bad. Like I said, don't name any names, but maybe the most memorable and then maybe just your favorite thing.
Yeah. On the top of my head, I have one very clear. It was my first, or maybe I think it was during the block actually. So it was when it was COVID. So we were kind of it was kind of a struggle to even find schools and to get into schools. But I did a lot in my own hometown and in my own surrounding area. And one of my favorite experiences, and it wasn't a good one necessarily, but I was working with a class that had a lot of economic issues just within parenting and within parent involvement. And the teacher was really struggling. She'd been teaching for a long time, but it just got really hard this year. I think especially with COVID, it was just a real challenge. They were still in person and a lot of schools weren't, and they were in person because of that economic situation where they just it couldn't, if they were sent home, it just wasn't an option. They couldn't. And going through that with the teacher was really, really challenging because we were working at a time that a lot of schools were kind of just in limbo and shut down. And we were working with things neither of us, I obviously had no idea what I was doing. I was just, working with her and hoping for the best and just really seeing students as people, not just, a third grader that you're just looking at as I'm trying to teach these standards and this is what I need to learn. But really looking at them as they have a whole background, they have a whole family, they have all these things they're coming in with every day, they have all of these struggles they're coming in with every day, or they're just coming in and they're sad. Sometimes that is it. Sometimes a student is just sad and that's okay. And really getting to see that and be a part of it in a way that was beyond just the idea of it, oh yeah, when I'm in a classroom, this is what I do, but actually really get to be okay, I have a student that needs this, this, and this before they can focus on learning math today. What do I do? And so that was like my utmost like favorite experience. And I'm still like like those kids, like I still have contact with today because like just seeing them grow from that has just been so cool. So
the fact that you recognize that and notice that tells me you are going to be a fantastic teacher. I
thank
have
you.
no doubt about that. Let's dive into something just a little bit fun on campus. And Mary Jo, you can play this game too. A lot of students, one of their main concerns, of course, is where will they live? What about roommates? And so Anna, of course, you can share kind of firsthand, but then Mary Jo, also, if you've heard from some of your students how wonderful it is or things that helped them with their roommate situation, maybe share a little bit about that.
When I have my first year, meet with every first year student that's interested in education. So it's about 70 students in the fall. And I always ask them, I kind of go through a bunch of different questions, how they're adjusting, how's life. And I always ask them how their roommate is because it can be awful and it can be great. And I would say 99% of the time it's great. I rarely hear from a student, and if anything, it's not awful. It's just kind of like, oh, like we're not best friends, but we get along. And so it's amazing. Some of them just do random. They just say, put me with whoever. You fill out a form and you kind of talk about your interests and your sleep patterns. I think they still do that. And others go on, once you're accepted, you get into a Facebook group and you kind of start meeting people through that group, and then you find someone that you think, oh, we'd be a good match. And I've heard of students doing that, and then they actually met before they kind of committed to being each other's roommates. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. I'm surprised because I remember, I went to college a long time ago, but I remember a lot more drama about roommates than I hear about at St. John's, St. Ben's. So I don't know if it's just, and everybody's coming. I shared a bedroom with a bunch of sisters. I think everybody's coming to college now having their own room. And so I would think that there'd be more issues, but maybe people are excited to have a roommate. Like I've never had a roommate before. So I really think do a good job of matching you, or students do a good job of finding a roommate that they think will be a good fit. So I don't know what you did, Anna.
Yeah, I did random, and I, to be completely honest and transparent, did not have the best freshman year roommate experience. But from that, I can say there are so many resources on this campus that like can help. Like if you're not having the best experience, if it doesn't go well and you're like, oh shoot, like there are so many resources. You have your RA, you've got Mary Jo checking in on you, you've got your mentors checking in on you. Like there's no way you'll just have to sit with it. I think that's kind of beneficial too. But that was only my freshman year. And since then I've had lovely roommates that I love so much and are my best friends. And it is kind of that mindset of like, there's someone you live with, they don't have to be your best friend, which can be kind of hard freshman year because you want to make friends and you see these pairs being best friends, and like that's great, but like realistically, like you want someone that you can live with and like meshes with you on a livable basis. Like your best friend doesn't always have the same sleep schedule as you. That is just how that works. And so I think even if you don't have the best experience right away, there are so many resources that can give you the best experience, and you will never be in a situation where you are not happy for long. Like I think that's just that. And that's all I gotta say on that, I think.
Typically roommates either work great, they make it work, or as you mentioned, Anna, there are people who can help you make the situation better. And that's what we really want. We want everyone to be feeling safe and have someone that they can really confide in if they need to, and that they feel comfortable being in a living situation with. So another thing that a lot of our students are concerned about, of course, is the food on campus, because if you're going to live somewhere for 4 years, you need to eat, and we want that to be enjoyable for them. So obviously we have food service on our campuses, and we have a number of places where our students can eat, 2 dining areas on each campus. But let's hear what some of your favorite foods are, or why a certain dining hall is your favorite place.
Yeah, that's an easy question for me. So at St. Ben's at Gretzky, which is like our main dining hall, we have Mongolian grill, which is basically like just this grill that has like all of these fresh vegetables and then like a choice of meat, and then it's cooked right there, and then you have like your choice of like brown rice or white rice, and then like all these different sauces. And I could talk about Mongolian grill all day, because freshman year I pretty much ate that twice a day every day. Like that was just my go-to. Like it was ridiculous. And it's still like right now I have like a much smaller meal plan because I'm a senior and I have a kitchen, so I should use it, but it's still like my like treat for myself. Like I love it. And like, I think for most, I've been to a lot of college campuses in the last 4 years, and I think we have hands down like the best food. Like we have so many options. We have a dining hall at each campus. So like the Reef at St. John's, and then Gretzky at St. Ben's. And then we also have McGlynn's at St. Ben's, and then Sexton at St. John's, which are kind of more like grab and go, like burgers, chicken tenders, fries, sandwiches, wraps. There's Burrito Bowl at Sexton. That's like a fan favorite. It's like a mini Chipotle basically on campus. Like it's delicious. But there's always an option. Like there's like, if you just want to like grab and go and you just want like a salad, or you just want a sandwich, like go for it. Like there's always salad bar. There's always wraps at McGlynn's. Like I just feel like there are so many choices that you're either going to find a favorite like I did and just stick with it, or you could switch it up every day and still be happy. Like there are always so many options.
In addition to the Mongolian grill, Gretzky has a lot of other options. I think they always have pizza. They always have like a burger and fry station. They always have some special like Italian or something else, and a salad bar and a sandwich bar. So they don't just have the Mongolian grill, which is really good. I can concur with Anna.
Yeah, I'm a soup girl, and they always have delicious homemade soups. And it's also nice that in our dining areas, the food is actually prepared there. A lot of colleges have gone away from that, and they basically order in prepared meals that they warm. But the food items here, aside from a couple favorites, like the little pan pizzas, those are made and warmed. But each year, it seems that the pizza in Gretzky, which is prepared in a brick oven, is somewhere in the top 10 of college foods nationwide. They actually have a poll for that, and that one makes it almost every year. So I did just put a call out for some last questions before we start wrapping this up. So in order to give our participants a chance to think of some of those, here's one thing. This is probably going to come to you first, Anna, and then Mary Jo, you can of course tag on to it. But I would be interested to hear what you would tell your younger self, or what kind of advice you could give prospective students who are considering St. Ben's and St. John's, and even education in particular, but it doesn't have to be specific to that.
That is a tough one. Obviously as a senior, that makes me a little sentimental. But if I could like go back and talk to my freshman self and be like, what are we doing? I would definitely say to just like, everything is what you make it. Like everything you put into it is what you make it. And I think that can be hard and kind of scary. But like in everything, like in education, if you go in the education department, like the relationships are what you make of it. Like the classes are what you make out of it. Like dive into everything as much as possible. And that's easier said than done, obviously. And I can't say I did it freshman year. That's why I would tell myself that. But just like everything is really what you make out of it, and make it the best it can be. Because like your choices, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, what did I do? You know? And so I think just going in with a positive attitude and going into everything with like my perspective on this will change what it is. So that's all I would say. And I think it's scary being a senior in high school and like looking at colleges. Like I very vividly remember the experience and being kind of stressed and like kind of overwhelmed. And I think when it comes down to it, when you're hearing all those things of like, you're going to walk on campus and you're just going to know, like, if you don't feel it, that's okay. Like, because truly, like wherever you go, like it's what you make out of it, and it's how you take it in. And I love this place and it's what I made out of it. And so I think that's my biggest piece of advice.
So I'm just going to tag on a little bit. I was a guidance counselor for 22 years before I left the prep school. And what I always told my students, you know, I think that a lot of people put ideas into your head about college and what it should be for you. And I think Anna said it best, is I think no matter where you go, as long as you, I mean, I wouldn't say I would go to a college campus where you just felt like you walked on campus and it was just blah, like there has to be some connection when you're on a campus. And I think you'll know that if you visit enough campuses. But then once you make that decision, once you get there, if you put in 100% of, into every activity you're into, you're going to get out 100%. So I always tell students, it's not really so much about the major. I mean, you want to make sure that a college has what you're interested in. If they don't have an education program and you're interested in education, don't go there. But if it's ranked in the top 10 or the bottom 10, if it's accredited, you'll get a good education. You'll make the most of it. So I think just looking at all the things that you are interested in high school, things you want to be involved in, if you want to carry those on into college, you have to make sure that some of that stuff is available. There's going to be so many more things in college that you've never even heard of that you probably will want to get involved with, like Anna over involved in a few things. She just found some interesting things and she didn't want to say no, which is great. So I think looking back to, working with high school students, I'd always have them make pros and cons lists of the colleges if they got it down to 3 colleges. And, some of it's the proximity to home. They want to be close to home or they want to be far away. The size of the campus, the food, the dorm rooms, but then some of the other things that are a little bit more intangible that you're not going to really know until you get there. But what did it feel like to be on that campus? And like Anna said, maybe you're not going to feel it on any of the campuses, but I have a feeling that I used to have students come back and they wouldn't even finish the tour because they either ran into things that just turned them off right away, or it just didn't feel right. And so I think, and I don't know if Anna, when you came to St. Ben's, if it was like, okay, this feels good, but I think there is something to be said about kind of the gut and how you feel on a campus. Most of our students, I would say, as seniors, love the community, and that's what they miss when they leave. And so if that's something you're looking for coming from a high school, that's something you want to find in a college that you're going to attend.
There's definitely nothing wrong with going with your gut. If you're looking at accredited schools and one just feels right compared to the other, go with your gut. It typically will not steer you wrong. So I think we're going to start wrapping this up. A reminder to our attendees, if you have questions that you didn't feel like asking tonight or that you think of later on, you can send an email to admissions@csb+SJU.edu, and we will do our best to answer that for you. Our application is open at this time. It's a great time to apply for admission. And also we are open for in-person on-campus visits Monday through Friday between 8:30 and 4:30. And we have some group visits on occasional Saturdays. We also have MEA visits coming up October 20th and 21st. So there are a lot of ways that you can come and check us out in person. And with that, I do want to ask both Anna and Mary Jo. Mary Jo has something to say, but Anna, why don't you think of what your kind of parting words would be after Mary Jo goes?
I just wanted to add that over MEA on the 20th and 21st, we have a special visit event in our department where you'll come in the morning, we'll have some pastries, you'll meet some current students. There's a panel with students that are currently out student teaching. You'll go to a little mini Ed 111 class to kind of get a feel for what that class is like. Then our chair is kind of creating an activity to do in our department to kind of learn the building a little bit, a fun activity. And then you'll get a 4-year plan if you want one. We'll discuss it and I'll have sample plans available. So that's on the website under visits, group visits. You can sign up right on the website. We'd love to see as many of you there as can make it.
All right, Anna, that's your cue. Parting words for our attendees.
I think I actually had one more thing I wanted to mention, and just my last little plug for CSB+SJU Education Department, but talking about the what you make out of it and all of that, the thought into putting into college, and Mary brought up the community. And I think the community aspect of this college is like unmatchable. And like I say that from the bottom of my heart, like I have professors who care about me as a person. I have friends who care about me as a person. I have classmates who care about me as a person who don't know me outside of class. There's really something to be said about what we have on this campus, that the community aspect of that, because you can't walk from point A to point B without knowing somebody. And you can't, like, if you're missing from class for 2 days, you will not only have an email from your professor, your department, your classmates, your best friend, your roommate, like everyone cares about everyone so much. And like, it's really something to be said about, that whole feeling you get, that whole vibe. You can't see that when you walk across campus, usually if you're on a visit, but it's really here, and it's for everyone. It's not just if you're in specific clubs. It's not just if you're in specific groups. Like freshman year, I remember when there were people missing in class, like people reached out, like emailed people, and they don't even, like, they barely knew their name. Like, it's just really, it's a sense of, I don't know, I can't explain it fully in words, but it really is. It's a community building aspect that is just, it's wonderful.
I think that's a great way to send our attendees off with some good feelings tonight. Thank you everyone for being here. Mary Jo, we thank you for your time. Anna, we thank you for your time as well. Wishing you great success in your classes, the end of your senior year, getting launched into teaching. And for our attendees, thank you for giving us your time and attention tonight. And we hope to see you on campus soon for a visit, and then maybe even a much longer visit for a few years after that. Everybody have a great night.